Nice guys need somebody to do a little dirty work. Hey, I am Chuck the bureaucrat, and there are a pair of very powerful players in any bureaucratic organization. That is, an organization that's responsible for the distribution of resources. Understanding this pair and the symbiotic relationship that they have helps you understand what's unfolding in the meetings that you go to. These players are the big man and the tax man. In short, the big man is the benevolent overlord who lavishes gifts and prizes on his loyal subjects. The taxed man is the black-hearted bastard who rides through the countryside, twisting arms and burning villages to collect the money that funds the big man's largesse. I'm taking the idea of the big man from tribal culture, especially in Polynesia, where an influential leader will build and maintain his power base through the skillful distribution of assets and privileges. It might be unfair to call general officers tribal, but they certainly have their own shifting lineage and alliances to maintain. They need cooperation from their peers, protection from bigger men, and the loyalty of their supporters. One of the obvious ways that they get these elements of power is through the distribution of resources in the annual process of PPBE, or even how they attempt to distribute resources. The problem that a big man faces is that somehow he's got to get the resources that he's going to use to buy the loyalty of others. Somehow, someone has to provide those resources. And that is where the tax man comes in. I mean, the big man can't be out there taking bread out of people's mouths. That would ruin his whole image. That would put him in conflict with the people that he at least wants to maintain an air of neutrality with. So the big man needs somebody to do the dirty work. A lot of Pentagon bureaucrats exist specifically to perform this task. In fact, plenty of these big men will bemoan the existence of these penny-pinching bureaucrats, all the while distributing the results of this penny-pinching to show that they are not like those bureaucrats. They support the commanders. And simultaneously, those big men will be aiming their taxmen to go squeeze more blood out of the turnips. Sometimes the big man will have the taxman take something away from a command just so he can make a big show of giving it back. He's the generous hero, and it doesn't cost him a dime. But so what? I mean, aside from a quirky story, what does this actually mean for your career? Well, I can think of at least 3 things that this means for the soldier who's headed to the Pentagon. First of all, wherever you're coming from, that command is going to have some kind of vague idea that you're going to be a loyal spy who funnels information and money from the puzzle palace to them. Truth of the matter is, for most rank and file field grade officers, you're not going to really be in a position to do them much good. In fact, you're apt to be more of a liability to your previous command, but that's a discussion for another day. The second way that this distinction between the big man and the tax man can impact your professional career is that when you get to the Pentagon, you're not going to get to be the big man. Once you get to the Pentagon, it will become clear that there are only so many big men, and they guard their influence jealously. But if you've been out in a line unit, even if you're not in a green tab leadership position, you've probably been able to carve out a role for yourself as the big man. So if you show up to the Pentagon and you try to be the big man, you're probably going to get off to a sour start. The final way that this can impact you is that when you show up to the Pentagon and discover that you are now the villain of the story, you can have a crisis of purpose. I have seen plenty of stellar majors and lieutenant colonels who cut their careers short simply because they wanted to be the hero in the story and they didn't like being the tax man. What it all comes down to is that as your career progresses, your role is going to change, and that's true of any place in the military experience. If you want to understand another common but painful process in a military career, watch this video to understand how soldiers grieve over the ending of their military career and how that can impact you even if you're still in the middle of your career.